On the back page of the graphing exam, we're going to start off with the loanable funds market. This is the market where buyer and seller of loans come together. So everything is supply and demand graph, it just simply has different labels. So the supply of loanable funds, the demand of loanable funds, and those price is the real interest rate. So the quantity of loanable funds is determined by how much supply there is. Now, when we put our money in the bank, the demand of loanable funds, the supply of loanable funds would increase. Okay, so the supply of loanable funds is also the demand for bonds. And the demand for loanable funds is the supply of bonds. What that means is that when people want to put money into the bank or demand bonds, they're seeking interest rates, they're seeking returns. When people want to borrow, they're demanding loanable funds, or they can supply bonds, print bonds to borrow money. So this is at equilibrium, which gives us the price of borrowing. Okay. Now, simple supply and demand with quantity. This is the base for all of our graphs. So whatever the price is always going to be on the vertical over here. So that's just our simple supply and demand at equilibrium. The money supply graph at equilibrium. Remember, money supply is always vertical because the Federal Reserve Bank has a monopoly over it. So our quantity of money, and sometimes you'll see people write an M right here. Either one is fine. The nominal interest rate, lowercase I with percent, is the percentage that's created when money supply and money demand cross each other. So this nominal interest rate is the price of money. Okay, there's two types of money demand. There's asset or transaction. So if people need money in order to put it into financial assets, as in they want to put their money into something that earns interest, or they simply need money to make transactions, then that's what those two types of money demand would be. Okay. Alright, the Forex is foreign exchange. It's the dollar market. So I got the dollar market right here, the supply, demand, quantity. So remember, I'm just going to take this and make it the denominator of everything to get my labels. So we'll have the supply of the dollar, the demand of the dollar, the quantity of the dollar, and the dollar underneath whatever currency you're given in the other country that you're dealing with. So that is going to set our exchange rate. So the quantity of whatever currency is demanded is going to make for the exchange rate going up or down. So that's foreign exchange at equilibrium. Alright. We have our current account. Remember, this is the balance of payments. Has three parts. The current account is made up of net exports, which is goods and services. Okay? And net exports is the largest component of the current account. And we have net foreign income. We have net transfers. Okay, so net foreign income is, remember, this whole thing is to track money going out of the country, money coming into the country. So biggest one, goods and services. Net foreign income is if someone sends their paycheck to another place, or a paycheck from another place comes in. Net transfers are like foreign aid, things like that, where it's simply transferred. The capital or financial account is our net foreign investment. So that's going to be anything that is considered purchasing of capital, or capital flight, things like that. So whenever we come, and then you're going to add this one and this one together and come up with your balance of payments in surplus or deficit. Remember, one is always a surplus and the other is always a deficit. It's an easy way. So the official reserves account, we're going to add to it if balance of payments ends up in surplus. And we're going to have to borrow if the balance of payment is in deficit. Alright, now for the investment demand curve. The investment demand curve shows all possibilities of how much investment we make at every kind of interest rate. So if it were the loanable funds market, you would put the real interest rate. If it was a money supply, you'd put the nominal interest rate. But I didn't tell you either one to attach it to this, so that's okay. So this is the level of investment that shows a reflection or how many borrowers are out there, and then how much would be borrowed at each price or invested in their business. Okay, so if money demand increases, the nominal interest rate would increase, and that would make investment decrease. Okay, if money demand were to decrease, then the nominal interest rate would decrease and investment would go up. If the money supply increases, got big bucks, that's going to make the nominal interest rate decrease and investment increase. If the money supply were to increase, that's going to make the nominal interest rate increase and investment decrease. So these capital I, those are what I've added to this graphing exam. Alright, so the demand and loanable funds, say people want to borrow, that's going to make the real interest rate, let me zoom in a little for you, that's going to make the real interest rate go up, and that would make investment go down. The demand of loanable funds decreases, and the real interest rate would decrease as well, and that would make investment go up. Remember, if people don't want it, the price goes down, and that price is the real interest rate. So if supply of loanable funds goes up, say people add money to their bank accounts, that would cause the real interest rate to decrease and investment would increase. If the supply of loanable funds were to decrease, that would make the real interest rate increase because there's less available, makes the price go up. And when interest rates are high, investment is low. So that's all of our thought process right there. Just work your way through each one. Don't try to memorize that one. Alright. So now we have our formula pages. So anytime we want to see a change in the money supply, takes your excess reserves times the money multiplier. And if you needed to find the total, just add back that first deposit. We have our multipliers, investment or spending, and that's 1 over MPS. And the tax multiplier, minus MPC over MPS. The money multiplier is 1 divided by the reserve ratio. The real interest rate formula is R equals nominal interest, that's I% minus pi, which is inflation. We're just adjusting the nominal interest rate for inflation. The unemployment rate, you take the unemployed people and divide by the labor force. Monetary equation of exchange, remember, is the money supply times its velocity is equal to price times quantity, or GDP. We got a little bit of monetary policy right here. Buy bonds makes big bucks, money supply would go up, interest rates would go down. Sell bonds makes small bucks, the money supply would decrease, causing the interest rate to go up. Now in our foreign exchange market, these are our shifters of foreign exchange. So if you're going somewhere, like on a trip, you would want the currency of another country because of taste or preference. The real interest rate, remember, if interest rates are high, people would want to put their money in our accounts. Okay, income level. So if people are making money, they're going to buy stuff from other countries. And then price level, or inflation. You want to shop where it's cheap, so you'd want that other currency. And of course, speculation. That means buy currency when it's cheap, try and trade it in later and make some money off it. So once you solve for who wants what currency, remember you're going to set up both your markets, and that will allow you to figure out what currency will appreciate or depreciate. That will allow for SID and less. So if your currency appreciates, it gets strong. So your imports increase, and that puts you into a trade deficit. Okay, if your currency depreciates, that makes it weak. Your exports will go up, and that puts you in a trade surplus. That's that net export effect. Sorry about the bad handwriting. And finally, our last part. What's going to shift aggregate demand and aggregate supply? So aggregate demand, that's what that stands for. Aggregate demand is going to be consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. If you just do x minus m, I'll be fine with that. Now things are going to shift short run supply. That's going to be the productivity of our workers, our input costs, inflationary expectations, government action, tax, subsidy, and regulations. Alright, so that is all. I can get a good picture of this, that way you can pause it when you need to go through. Loanable funds, supply and demand, money market, foreign exchange, balance of payments, investment demand, all of our formulas and multipliers, all of our shifters of foreign exchange, or shifters of our aggregates.